Hey guys, this is Todd with HomebrewAcademy.com, and today we're going to look at using the brew in a bag technique with a cooler mash tun. Now this is not at all a new concept, but I feel like it's underrated, so I want to tell you about my experience with it so far. If you're a traditional brew in a bagger, you might be laughing at me already, but if you haven't thought about using a bag filter in a cooler before, then let's take a second to look at both sides. Now in an actual brew in a bag setup, you mash in the same vessel that you boil in, such as a pot or a kettle, obviously. And really, the only problem with those kinds of containers is they don't hold heat very well. Depending on your setup, you may have to monitor it to some degree, switching the heat source on and off, or wrapping the whole thing in some way to insulate it, and some people even use the oven to maintain their temperature. So the good thing about the traditional approach is that you only have to worry about one piece of equipment. You don't have to worry about transferring any wort, and there's just less to clean up. You can also easily adjust the temperature of the mash if you need to, like if you missed your mash temperature or if you're doing a multi-step mash. I personally like mashing in a cooler. You just hit your mash temperature, close the lid, and then come back when it's done. You don't have to worry about heat loss or adjusting the temperature. You just set it and forget it. Now, the traditional approach and using a cooler both have their pros and cons, and it really comes down to a matter of personal preference and what helps you in some way, whether it's consistency in your brewing or just an easier brew day. When I made the switch to an all-grain, I bought a 10-gallon round cooler, a false bottom, and a nice ball valve, and that worked perfectly fine. But I wish I had known about these bag filters before dropping all that cash. I found that it's much easier and faster to use a bag filter like this guy. This is the Brew Bag. You can get these from brewinabag.com. They're custom made to fit anything that you mash or brew in, pots, kegels, mash tuns of any shape and size. It's made out of a very strong and finely woven nylon mesh that doesn't let any grain bits through. In fact, you can double crush or fine crush your grain to maximize your efficiency, and you don't have to worry about a thing. Now, when you go onto brewinabag.com, you're going to have to give them the measurements of your mash tun so that they can make a bag that fits just right. It needs to be loose enough to fill the whole mash tun, but snug enough to make it easy to secure it. Some bags have Velcro straps that help tighten the bag around the mash tun, but this bag only has these loops. So it's recommended that you use a bungee cord or something similar to make sure that the bag doesn't slip, which can happen when you're mashing in and stirring around a lot. I roped a bungee cord through the handles and each loop on the bag, and that seems to work pretty well. You can also have a friend hold the bag in place. Just make sure don't splash them in the face. Now, if you're new to the brew in a bag concept, this is where you start to see the benefits of the technique. Once the mash is complete and you're ready to drain the tun, you can do one of two things. You can open up the valve and let the wort drain right into the kettle, or you can hang the bag and let all the wort drain back into the mash tun. There's no need to voil off since there's no worry of any grain getting through the bag, so that'll save you a few minutes right there, especially if you're sparging multiple times. So let's talk about hanging the bag for a minute. In order to get the most out of a bag filter, you're going to want to hang it. Having the ability to hang the bag prevents stuck sparges and allows you to get nearly all the liquid from the grain. There's all kinds of different ways to hang the bag, and it depends on where you brew and the kind of equipment that you're using. I brew outside, so I made a pretty simple rig out of an A-ladder, a 2x4, and an I-hook. The top of the ladder has a couple holes in it, so I just centered the 2x4 over the top of the ladder, and then I marked where the hole was and installed the I-hook there. Then you just attach the pulley hook, and now you've got a very sturdy and portable pulley rig that costs less than $15 if you've already got the ladder. You can buy these pulleys from brewinabag.com. They're easy to use, they have a nice locking mechanism, and they hold up to 150 pounds, which is plenty. So once you've put all the loops on the hook and you've hoisted up the bag, it usually takes a while for all the wort to naturally drain out of the grain. So what you can do is actually squeeze the grain using a thick pair of heat-resistant PVC gloves like these. I can get a majority of the liquid out in about 5 to 10 minutes using this technique. Just be careful not to burn yourself. So now that all the wort has been extracted, it's time for cleanup. Now I'm not going to lie, I hated just about every part of cleaning out the mash tun with my old setup. Half the time the false bottom would fall out when dumping the grain, and it was just a pain in the butt trying to get all the grain bits out of the filter. But with the brew bag, you just grab it at the bottom, you turn it over, and about 99% of the grain flies right out. Then you just turn the bag inside out, spray it off, hang it to dry, and that's it. Doesn't get much easier than that. So just to recap, you can use a bag that's typically used in brew in a bag setups as a filter for cooler mash tuns. It's a great option if you like the idea of mashing in a cooler and not having to worry about temperature management. I've put this bag through some serious pain, and I've been really impressed with the quality of the material. And now I'm just a huge fan of this process in general. It saves me a lot of time during the mash and the cleanup processes and gives me more time for the good stuff. Cheers.